Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and, well, yesterday certainly was a day of highs and lows for the Eurovision world, starting with a revelation from nowhere else but Croatia, to whom I say welcome back to the contest, and holy hell you're not pulling any punches this year. Croatia, of course, has been absent from the contest for a few years, with their last participation being in 2013 with a mediocre finish in the semi-finals. We haven't even seen them in a final since 2009, and even then, as I recall, that was a wildcard qualifier, which, no offence to Igor Cukrov and Andrea Shushnyara, but that was a dumb and unfair mechanic, and I'm so glad they got rid of it. This year, though, the Croatian nation need not worry about wildcards or mediocre placings, because their national broadcaster has confirmed the worst-kept secret since the public deciding that Sweden was going to win last year's contest before they'd even chosen their song, that Croatia will be represented by the voice winner Nina Kraljić, and also her song would be called Lighthouse, which we didn't know prior to. All we knew is, earlier this year, like very early, like September time, there were rumours that, Croatia's gonna come back, and they're gonna send Nina Kraljić, and then the broadcast was like, no, we haven't decided anything yet, give us more time to decide, we'll get some funding together, we'll see what happens, and then spin forward to March of this year, and yeah, we're here, Nina Kraljić, hi. And yes, her song's called Lighthouse, it's in English, and doesn't need any translation on my part, because a lot of the songs this year are in English, because that's just the way the contest's going, apparently. So what are my first thoughts about this? Well, my very, 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 very first thought, good grief, that was a sudden song announcement. Because I was listening to the live stream of the radio show where they were going to announce the song, and the announcement was basically, okay, here's some music, beep, beep, it's 11 a.m, ladies and gentlemen, so here's our Eurovision song, Nina Kraljić, Lighthouse, go! And then they played the song. And then again, this song needs no introduction. I don't want to sound like I'm gushing too much, but this was love at first listen for me. It left a brilliant first impression, and listening to it again a little later in the day did nothing to shift that opinion. I do go through periods where I think maybe I'm overrating this song a bit. Do I really like it more than, say, Armenia or Hungary or whoever? Is it really that good? And then I listen to it again and I think, no, it genuinely is that good and really does deserve all this hype from me. And from what I've seen, a lot of the internet is on my side with this one. Now, that's a rare occasion if ever I've seen one. So what are the good points? What does this song do right? Well, evidently, as is the case with me, it leaves an incredibly strong, incredibly positive first impression, just from first, as I said, this was love at first listen for me, which is solid gold when it comes to Eurovision songs. If she's able to convince people to even half as much of a degree when she hits the stage in Stockholm, she's bound to go a very long way with this one. The style of music, too, is suitably anthemic, and will not only sound right at home on the Eurovision stage, but it will fill the arena, as a song of this scope needs to, helped, of course, by her voice, whose power and versatility is showcased really well through the song itself, not to mention the fact that, well, she won The Voice, so she's got to have a good voice and must be popular with the public, so this song does a lot right, basically. Overall, the song, both musically and lyrically, is absolutely full to the brim with empathy and atmosphere and genuine feeling, which means that it will lend itself very well to live staging as long as they don't go too gimmicky. And if people can latch on to the metaphor of the lyrics, then a lot of people will be able to project themselves into the story of the song, meaning that it's going to be what a lot of people want or need to hear, and that means it's going to hit home with a lot of people. To that end, I predict really good things for Croatia this year, because she's telling her own story, but you can project yourself into it, and so it's being sung for people rather than at people, which is good, because you can engage with the song, which is a really important term. Basically, it's a really good song, but without the concept of bad, how would we know what good is? So let's take a look at the negatives of the song. My first point, which is rather petty and probably just a me thing, is that while the lyrics do tell a compelling narrative, which, like I said, carries a relatable message that people can project themselves into, there is a part of me that finds the way the lyrics stick so closely to the title, it feels a little bit childish, for want of a better word. Like, there's something that slightly bothers me about the song being a metaphor, but then sticking so closely to its imagery throughout, that it makes absolutely certain to hammer home, look, this is a metaphor, hey audience, don't miss a single bit of subtext, look, I am at sea, I am singing about being at sea like it's a musical. Like I said, it's a me thing. I can't articulate it too well, it's just there's something about that doesn't quite click with me. Besides that, and on a slightly more general note that more people can agree with, There's the more obvious gripe of it including a key change, which, in this case, is actually carried off really well to the song's credit. It does sound really good in context. I just can't help but pull the song up on it as a bad point, because it's an old cliche that's basically artificial at this point. It never comes naturally to a song. In this case, it feels like they thought, song for Eurovision, already sounds great, what does Eurovision love? Key changes, except Eurovision hasn't loved key changes for over 15 years. So, that's my line of thinking there, but it does work. I can't help but hesitate about it as a concept, but, as I said, it works, and so I can't fault it too much. Finally, and most crucially, with her vocal style, there is a bit of a risk of her voice sounding weak compared to the backing track. There's an intimacy, a vulnerability to her voice, the nuances of which might be masked by the music, or that might be misinterpreted as her sounding shaky if the audience doesn't get to fully appreciate the way her voice works. So, in more down-to-earth terms, in slightly less up-in-the-air, fancy, kind of silly terms, her microphone should be carefully balanced so she doesn't sound too quiet, as was the case with Slovenia last year. That's basically what I'm saying. Because if her voice is too quiet compared to the music, then the song's going to lose a fair amount of impact. So what's my score out of 10? Well, I'm sure you could probably see this coming from the way I've been talking about the song, but yes, I admit it. This entered my top 43 at position number 1 when I first heard it, and for certain, it's a definite 10 out of 10 as far as I'm concerned. And it warms my heart to see a lot of the fandom agreeing with me on that front. This is one of Croatia's strongest, if not their strongest of all time, Eurovision entries, and I want to believe that it's a contender for the win. Admittedly, it might be a bit late to the hype-generating party compared to some of the other favourites this year. However, this year is the kind of contest that I like the most. It's wide open, and there are a few favourites, but nobody has any idea how it's going to go down when all is said and done. And so with this song's mass appeal, I want to believe that it can reach out and grab the win, and even if it misses, it'll at least land in the top 5. But we'll see. So how does it compare to the last song sent by Croatia? Of course, as I mentioned, Croatia's been gone for a couple of years. They were last seen in 2013 with Klapa Smora and Miseria, which was of a genre of song that's protected by UNESCO or something as intangible cultural heritage or something to that effect. Now, I really liked the song at the time, and honestly, I still do, but a lot of people weren't so keen, a lot of people weren't convinced. Knowing that, I can see why some people would listen to the song and watch the staging and then write it off as boring or uninteresting, because it requires investment to truly appreciate the style and significance of their outfits and the song and all that. Lighthouse, meanwhile, it's strong, it's engaging, it has mass appeal, and so of course it's the better Eurovision song. It doesn't need any prior knowledge, doesn't need you to have any background information, you can just listen to it. Like, if you've never heard it before, you can listen to it for the first time and just fall in love straight away like I did. I could make some pun about, of the two, Nina sails to victory and blows the clapper from the sea out of the water, and the pieces are there, make the joke yourself. So will it qualify? Almost certainly. It has the right public support, and her voice has all the right nuances to appeal to the juries. Not to mention, the song sounds like it would chart in the UK, the lyrics notwithstanding, which means that it has the right international appeal. As I said, it's definitely deserving of a top 5 finish, if not a win outright. But given how strong the competition is this year and how late to the game it is, especially when it comes to generating hype, it might struggle to get as much support as it deserves or needs for that kind of placing. Then again, given the fan response in the 10 or so minutes since its premiere, never mind thereafter, people do seem to love this one as much as I do. So, yeah, as long as she doesn't mess up the live performance, a qualification seems not only on the cards, but as good as guaranteed. A win would be lovely for this song, but even if it lands in the top 10, that'll be the best Croatia has ever achieved in the 21st century. Overall, I think the final placing will just be the icing on the cake for Croatia. They'll just be happy to have qualified at all, I think, and rightly so. They've got a good song, and it'd be nice to see them in the final again for the first time in 7 years. So I will say, good luck, Croatia. You've got a very strong song, a very brilliant artist supporting it, so we'll see you in Stockholm, and we'll see just how far you can go with this one. I'm hoping to see you in the top 5, but we'll see. So, see you then.